Church League Champ Podcast. Man, it's been a little bit. Happy to be here with you, with the legend, with the OG in the game, who currently is looking at his phone because we're laughing at Mike Bibby on steroids.
I don't know what he's on. He's just eating a lot of beef and.
No, I'll say it for you. Nobody cares that he's on roids now. So when he was in the league, people would care and they would check. Yeah, but that's okay. Let me introduce you properly. So, formerly with the Detroit News for eons. FS1, you probably saw him on this morning, and also, of course, you see him, hear him on 570 in LA as well, all over the place. The OG Rob Parker, man, I appreciate you joining the podcast.
Kelvin, what's up, buddy? Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Feeling good. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit. You've been in LA now for how long?
Year and a half.
And I'm laughing because, I was 10 minutes late, so Rob was already at the mall. He comes over here with some new, fresh summertime Cali Jordans. You were Calified, man. I just want you to know that.
Everybody already says that to me. They say, well, I came out here, I lost 30 pounds, I eat right, I get my rest. And what I get from my friends and family is basically, I don't know what I looked like before, but they say, you look great. You look younger. Like I'm watching you on TV. And you just look younger. I just feel better. The sunshine out here, a chance to move around and walk and exercise and all that. I love it. I love the whole thing here.
There's a glow, brother. There's a glow to you now. And Cali does that. It did that to, especially first it started with my wife. We came out here and I was all like, okay, Cali's cool. I enjoy it. But she was in love with it, smitten, and it just does something to your personality, man. It makes you lighter and things that would frustrate you, like, oh, it's okay, man. No big deal. Take it easy.
And I think also, it's kind of phony, like, or corny, you think, when people ask you about it or how do you like it? And I just say to them, I said, I know it's cliche, but I love L.A.
Yeah.
And it's just that song, like, when it's true. You just said, I can understand why I love L.A.
When we first hooked up, we ended up going to a Yankees-Angels game.
Which was awesome.
We had a great time. And by the way, that's the first time I can say that you're right. I went thinking, let me get a big helmet with nachos once. You're here, do the ballpark thing. You over here getting chicken teriyaki, hold the fat, no this, only broccoli, no rice. I'm like, what in the world?
Yep, and that was it. That's how I roll. Or if I go and I'm going to have a hot dog at the ballpark. Matter of fact, I'm going tomorrow night to the Giants-Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. I'll eat the hot dog out of the bun without the bread.
Yeah.
Just little things like that
that
save calories.
I was at the gym earlier, man. I'm trying to bring sexy back, so I trust me, I feel you. But I'm glad you're here, man, because you've been doing your thing, and you found a good place right now when you talk about FS1. Shout out to my girl, Jamie Maggio. Saw you doing it with her, Chris Broussard. LeBron ain't staying in Cleveland. I had to do a little Chris Broussard.
Yeah, there you go.
LeBron, let me tell you, Rob. Chris Broussard has me rolling. But you, the last 3 months or so, have really gotten their feathers ruffled on Twitter and all of that, man, going at King James. We got to start there. If I said Rob Parker hates LeBron, you say.
No, I don't. You have to know somebody personally to hate them. So hate is the wrong word.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Hates on LeBron.
Okay. I spew the truth or what I believe to be the truth on LeBron. LeBron James is a great player. He's not the greatest of all time for all the millennials who just think whatever happened yesterday is the best that ever happened.
Right.
You can't live in that world without context. And everything that goes in it, especially the idea that whenever he loses, it's not his fault. Oh, he doesn't have enough players. But if he wins a big game, oh, he won because he doesn't have it. You can't have it both ways.
Why can't we?
Because we can't. Not when we talk about, and if you want to talk about the greatest of all time, you are going to nitpick. You want to talk about the competition he's faced. You want to talk about passing the ball up in the crunch time to other people. You say the other night when the first game of the finals, when he scored 51, the end of the game, he passed the ball to George Hill with 8 seconds to go, and Steph Curry in front of him. That now you could say, well, that was the play, that was the right basketball play. No, it wasn't, because George Hill missed a free throw, and we've seen this happen to LeBron. LeBron is more apt to take the shot, as we saw in the playoffs, when the game is tied and there's no downside. Either you're going to overtime or you're going to win.
Let me hit you with the Nate dog. Hold up. Let me hit you with that real quick. Now, here and all jokes aside, tell me if you can feel me on this a bit. So I get your sentiment with that. We've all watched him play for the last 15 years. So we've seen moments where you're like, man, he could have taken the shot, or why didn't he take it there? Do you think there's a challenge because he's such a hybrid player? Follow where I'm going. Kobe came into the league, I'm going to be like Jordan. I'm going to be a scoring machine. Jordan, a scoring machine. Larry Bird, I am a shooter. So people come in.
People don't know, Michael Jordan led the league in scoring 10 years in a row.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure. And I think his high was 37, which is ridiculous in that era.
Ridiculous. You remember the defense when you could touch people defensively?
I participated in that as a high school player. We were allowed to hand check you and all that.
Yes, indeed.
So, but hear me out when I say, because LeBron is such a hybrid that we've never seen, where the first thing we say is he going to be the next Jordan, right? We say when as soon as he's coming to the league. But then we say, wait, after we watch him play, he's more like Magic. So since he's such a hybrid, Magic Johnson would make the right basketball play. Meaning, if you watched him play, if it was for me to take a baby hook against the Celtics, I'm going to do it. If it was for me to drop a dime down to Kareem and tell him, get us one big man, or kick it out to Byron, I'm going to do it. And we wouldn't criticize him because he made the right play whether it worked or not. And I think LeBron is in that weird, well, my brain is a point guard, cerebral, and I see George Hill blow by Klay Thompson, I believe it was, and that's a wide open layup if Klay doesn't grab him by the waist. And we're up one. It's a layup. So that's the right read. But us watching him, and as you mentioned, we're going to start, finding the things to nitpick, because if he's going to be the greatest, he has to make this shot. So can you understand that sometimes the confusion of that's the right read, that's the right play, I'm a passer, but then, wait, I need to be more aggressive, I need to score. And he's living in this hybrid place.
But see, but those things don't seem to work out for him. So that's why on that night, especially this game we're talking about, where he had 49 going into overtime, think about this. He shot the ball unbelievably. If you remember that, he was knocking down everything. You got a smaller Steph Curry in front of you. All I'm saying is 8 seconds to go. On that night, everything was working for you. What can Steph Curry do to stop you? He really can't.
Not much.
And the other one was last year when he passed to Kyle Korver. You got Draymond Green in front of you with 5 fouls, okay? Mm-hmm. You can take the ball to the basket. Either you're going to get a foul or, you know what I mean? Or you get Draymond out the game. There's a lot of other things. You don't need a 3. In that game, they're up 2. So passing for a 3 up 2 with the ball with Draymond Green in front of you, you could say that's the right basketball play.
You did leave out Iguodala, who was on the side.
But I'm still saying that's who was in front of the rim.
So I will give you that one more than the George Hill one, in the sense of anybody who's played ball, if you're up top and a guy just flashes and he's open, that your little instinct is layup.
But then you say to yourself, okay, whoa, he made the right basketball play, and George Hill's an 80% free throw shooter. Not in a big game.
So why?
Not in a big game.
Where is George Hill has the greatest scapegoat in the history? J.R. Smith just saved him. We'll call it the J.R. play or the J.R. this, or you'll call it the LeBron should have finished the game. George Hill will just sneak out the back door like no one saw that. And just get out
I get
there.
it, because nobody
make the free throw. We're not having this conversation.
Nobody's expecting him. He's not that guy at the end of the game. It's like when they leave people open. You're open.
Draymond.
You're open for a reason, right? Why are you open for a reason?
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that the right basketball play is to keep throwing it to Draymond Green because he's open. He's open because nobody believes he can make the shot.
Don't compare that to an 80% free throw shooter.
No, but he's not an 80% free throw shooter in the NBA Finals in a big spot.
Can we give him a chance?
No. I want LeBron.
I'm with you.
To handle that. I do.
I'm with you on. There have been occasions. That one doesn't bother me as much. We'll disagree on that because, again, if I see a guy cut for a wide open layup, if he doesn't get grabbed by his waist, that's a layup.
Yeah, but that's the right play defensively.
Right. But I'm saying I don't blame him for that. But let's go back to the GOAT aspect. As much as I love LeBron, everybody knows I'm a LeBron apologist. He's not the GOAT if we're talking all things considered. It's still Michael. I'll give you an example. If you ask me right now, the history of quarterbacks are lined up. They're all 22 years old. You have your pick of the litter for the next 15 years to be your quarterback. I want Aaron Rodgers.
Everybody wants Aaron Rodgers.
But people are going to say Tom Brady because he's the best.
He's the most accomplished. Tom Brady is not the best quarterback. You want to talk about skill set, able to have a strong arm, accurate, throw on the run, elude,
can run,
pressure. what can he do? You saw him beat Dallas with an unbelievable throw downfield.
I saw him beat Detroit
right?
year in, year out.
Absolutely. So I've covered all those games too, and everybody would pick Aaron Rodgers. You said for the next 15 years, who's going to be a quarterback? They would not pick Tom Brady.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because you brought up something I think that when we have these conversations, we kind of leave out just the old school, if I was at the park aspect of it. And I think one area where LeBron could win the GOAT argument is if you just walked up to Venice Beach getting ready to play some hoops and you saw 28-year-old Jordan, 28-year-old Kobe, 28-year-old, all the other Dr. J, whoever, and 28-year-old LeBron, you would see something that you would be like, I don't know if we're going to win championships. I don't know if we're going to win 10 games in a row here at Venice Park. I just know I want him on my team.
No, I got that.
And I think there is an element, shout out to my old co-host Marcellus used to talk about, the straight just combine thing. Meaning like when I just look at the pure skill set, athleticism, like I don't know about rings and all that, just who can hoop. There is an argument to say we've never seen anyone as great as LeBron.
I'll give you that, but the flip side to that argument is if knowing what you know and there's 5 or 6 seconds left in the game, who do you want to have the ball to win the game? And it would be Michael Jordan, who has gotten it done. And you could talk about
He all right.
No, he better than I, man. I'm telling you, I was
No,
there,
I'm
and I started covering the NBA in 1987. I was in Cleveland when Michael Jordan made that shot over
Elo.
Craig Elo. I'm sitting courtside. And what people always try to do is when LeBron made a game winner, they try to put that shot next to Michael.
Yeah, I remember they did that.
Michael's shot was for the series. They were down. It wasn't to
Either if I miss, we go into overtime.
If he missed, they go home.
Right.
The series is over. That's a different shot than when the score's tied, knowing my
There is an
safeguard
ease. I'll give you that.
overtime, right? I mean, it doesn't mean it's a great make. So I'm not taking away that he made it, but it ain't the same shot.
So Jordan to me is, I won't say it pains me because Jordan is Jordan. Jordan's still the GOAT, and I'm okay with that. Even as a big-time LeBron fan, it is still Jordan. But what's become interesting is Kobe, who usually stays out of things, every now and again he'll pop up and say, hey, what's up, world, and then go back away. He has become very vocal lately the last 2-3 weeks.
And especially going on Twitter to answer an anonymous I'm just like.
He made that person. That person has that tweet. He printed it out, blew it up, and is on his wall right now.
But Kobe really bothered you that much? I mean, I just can't get over these guys and people are worked
Burner
up.
accounts.
Yeah, and all this other stuff. I mean, I get tweets, and you know what? I'm really cool about it. I'll read some of them. Mm-hmm. If somebody's really being mean-spirited, I just block them. It's just real simple. And if someone's trying to be like, might say something and it might like try to be smart alecky or something, I'll just say, thanks for watching. Rob Park is the worst analyst on television. Thanks for watching.
I'm the
Obviously,
same way.
Right? You got to be you're so bothered.
They follow you. They watch you. They take time to tweet you. Yeah, trust me, I get it.
If you just say that, I don't know what the comeback is. Thanks for watching.
So, okay, with Kobe, though, he's been coming out. He talked about, let basically saying, let them be great, let me be great.
No, it doesn't work like that.
I had my, Mike got his 6, I got my 5, LeBron is on his quest. What did you make of that?
I just think that's we don't live in that world. A lot of people say, just admire the greatness. We don't have to compare. No, that's not. The only reason that people say that is that they're not on top. And that's why you would use that as your argument. That's not what we do. Sports talk radio and the shows that we do, the debate shows on television, it's not about, well, let's sit back, let LeBron play his 17, 18 years, and then we'll come back and we'll see where he fits in. No, we talk about it as you go along.
We would be unemployed if that was the case.
Yes, that's not the way it is. And people have been comparing people forever. It used to be who's the next Willie Mays or who's the next Hank Aaron or next Mickey Mantle. It's always been that. So this whole notion that this is new, there's nothing new to it.
Throw it in Coming to America. Muhammad Ali, Rocky Marciano.
That's what I'm trying
he whipped Joe Louis. You know what I mean? We've been doing that for years. I get because it's louder more now than ever. Because as you mentioned, you're on 17 shows.
Yeah, something like that.
17 shows.
If they're paying, I'm on.
Right. You write. You're on radio. You're on TV. I was doing the same thing as far as had the radio show going, and there's podcasts now. There's Instagram, Twitter. So I do think the noise has elevated. where I can get how it becomes a bit more annoying than it used to be. Because it used to be you might have had the conversation with your homeboy. Well, I like having conversations with my homeboy anyway. This is what we do. This is what we hang out before we're going out to a bar or something. So I do think now it's louder and it's coming from voices you personally didn't care to hear from.
And here it is. You got to think about this. From me, as a guy who's been in the business 32 years and seen it evolve and seeing change. When I was a kid, there used to be a thing called sports phone. Do you know what that is?
No.
See, you're too young. That was the only way to get the scores from games. There was no other place to get it. Wow. You used to call a number, 976-1313. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding you, in New York. And then they would update the scores.
I don't believe you.
Every 15 minutes. So they would go like sports phone, King Wally up next with Mets and Yankee highlights, and they would just basically give you the score. In the 7th inning, Mets lead the Astros, 5-4. Yankees lead and that was the only way you could get a score. So
that was the first sports ticker.
I'm telling you. And you used to call, it was free, with your service, so it didn't cost any money. You would call a thing 50 times a day, trying to get scores. Same thing. Monday Night Football highlights. You couldn't see action from all over the country on local news, like wherever you were living. You had to watch Monday Night Football, and Howard Cosell give the Monday Night Football highlights, and you just wished that your team made it, that they did something enough to make it. So all I'm saying is, yes, the noise is louder because we have these 24-hour sports networks. There was no 24-hour sports radio, talk shows, talk stations. None of that.
So then if you kind of break it down, you said, so let's call it 3 decades. What do you think the next thing is? What have we missed? If it was just local, then it went cable. And then if it went cable, well, it went 24 hours, ESPN.
Well, one thing I will say is I think, players think that they don't need the media, and, they got the Players Tribune, which, is basically – a communist newspaper. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but really, it's if you're a fan looking for something, there's nothing that is going to be. It's all based off of what they want you to hear. No,
I never thought about it like that. I just thought of it as a direct line from the player.
But are they ripping players there? Is there guys confessing to doing bad stuff?
There are some
it's
all
stories. About redemption. Oh, you got to tell your story here, and you could tell it in your own voice.
The most recent being, or one of them at least, Kevin Love and the whole therapy. And I had a nervous breakdown.
Which is, don't get me wrong, it's a good story.
Right.
But I'm just saying, when you don't have an objective journalist involved who's going to ask some of the other questions that go with it, they go unchecked to me.
Is a journalist objective?
What's that? Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, man.
You'd hate to live in this world without journalism. We need journalism more than ever before. And you know what I'm encouraged by it is that journalism in colleges, like the major, has spiked.
Yeah.
Because you need people. You would hate to be in this world. And there's still a lot of good journalism going on. Everybody's not a journalist. And I think that's what when people like, I don't know about, it's just because you're at home and you have a blog, you're not a trained journalist. You haven't gone to journalism school. I have a master's degree from Columbia, the best journalism school in the country. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And stuff like that is important. Chris Broussard and I, just the other day, yesterday, were on with Greg Jennings, the former receiver, and he starts off by saying, hey, I hate when they use anonymous sources, and we both jumped on him that, dude, some of the greatest journalism, greatest stories have come from anonymous stories because people can't always go on the record, but there's a story to be told, and they got to get it out.
That was the athlete in him.
You know what I mean?
The athlete in him was mad because an anonymous source said blah, blah, blah. And most of the time it's true, and it burns him because, I'm the player
put your name on it. Exactly. But he has to understand that that's where some of the best stuff comes from. I get it, and it's a reason that we give people a shield because there's truth out there. And if you do your due diligence, a lot of great stories come out of people who see something, know something, and are willing to talk about it.
Stay there for a minute. You and I both part of the NABJ. For those who don't know, it's the National Association of Black Journalists. And if you're a young African-American who's interested, as Rob was alluding to, getting into journalism and broadcasting, I would highly suggest you check it out. Happens to be in Detroit this year. Looking forward to it. But kind of talk about your journey. I mean, being with the Detroit News for so long.
great about it
Yeah.
is the NABJ, which is in Detroit, and I worked there for 23 years. But I'm actually going to be honored by the Sports Task Force for a Pioneer Award.
Yeah.
I was the first black sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. When they hired me back in 1993, if you could believe this, the newspaper was 161 years old, and they had never hired a black guy who had an opinion, a
Right.
opinion column. So Detroit's very near and dear to me, and I'm proud of that I was able to go there. And I was also the first black sports columnist at New York Newsday. They had never had a black guy as a columnist.
Man, you were
in
like
that,
the Frederick Douglass.
That's crazy. That's why they give me the Pioneer Award. And I was the first black sports writer to ever cover the Cincinnati Reds on a daily basis. And remember, the Cincinnati Reds were the first professional team in this country's history.
Okay, so here's the bad part about that. The bad part is you named too many first. I was hoping you would get to give you one, because
I had
then
three,
it'd be,
I
okay,
know.
one place was slow to progress. 3 places? Come on, America.
Crazy.
I'm about to do the Donald Glover, the Childish Gambino dance. This is America. I mean, 100 and something years you were saying. Now, first of all, 161 you were saying.
Right.
Was it the Detroit News? Was
Free
it?
Press.
Free
That
Press,
was-
the Free
right.
Press. 161. 135, we didn't have a chance. Okay, we didn't even have a chance.
Didn't even have a chance.
We didn't even have a chance. So
But then there was about 30
But
years
then it was about
when they
30
were
years
just
they were still
ignored us.
slow.
Oh, absolutely. And
So we'll talk about that. So you're writing. When did you get the interest or the bug for radio and then television? Kind of walk me through that journey.
I always wanted to be a sports writer. I wanted to be Oscar Madison from the old TV show, The Odd Couple.
Okay.
I really did. I used to watch the show, and I said, this guy got the greatest job in the world. As a kid, I was like everybody else. I wanted to be I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to play first base for the Mets. That was my goal. That was my dream. And it was like, okay, so what happens if I don't make it? I was that kid thinking
Right.
about it. What would I do? So then I was like, I used to read. I'm 9 years old in New York. Read 3 newspapers every day. I used to go to in the morning, read the Daily News on the way to school, come home, read the New York Post, which was the afternoon paper, on the way home from school. And then I had a paper route. The Long Island Press was the local paper I used to deliver in my neighborhood. I used to read the sports section before I delivered the papers.
Oh, wow.
So I was that kid.
Yeah, you were all in.
I was all the way in. And a real quick side story to just the newspaper thing. So I'm in high school. I'm 16 years old. And the high school newspaper took forever to come out, the old process of it. So you would write a story about the basketball team. By the time it came out, it was baseball season. It'd take too long. And I was frustrated by it. So I'm like going to the principal. I said, I have this idea. I want to start an all-sports newspaper at the high school. And the principal's like, we don't have money for that. The kids are only going to throw it on the ground. It's just going to be another piece. Now, you would think like you would be like an educator trying to encourage.
Right.
Here's a young
Wow,
black
he
kid
has such an
coming in.
impressive
Wow,
idea.
Yeah, this is good. Nope, totally shot it down. So I said, well, if I raise the money myself, can I do it? He says, okay, yeah, if you have the money for the printing cost, then no problem. So I went home, typewriters back then, typed 3 letters, yep. Typed a letter to the New York Times, to the Daily News, and the New York Post. The Daily News, which was my favorite paper growing up, did not write me back. The New York Times wrote me back, and they sent me a letter saying, thanks, blah, 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 but it's against our company policy to help other people start newspapers. So I said, do they know I'm 16 years old? Like, I'm not going to be in competition.
Right.
I mean, the idea that somebody actually sat down and wrote that letter was just comical. This is 1980. The third letter was originally addressed to Rupert Murdoch, who didn't own Fox, who only was a newspaper publisher, owned the New York Post, the Boston Herald, the San Antonio paper, and papers in Australia. That's what he did.
He was about 3 more away from being, that was about to be communist at that point.
Yeah,
You can't,
right.
all right, you own
Okay.
way too many newspapers.
So Rupert Murdoch sent me a check, and
Oh,
I say
wow.
his office for $50 to start my newspaper, which
Oh,
was
that's
called
awesome.
Sportsline. And now here it is, 30 years later, I work for him at Fox Sports 1. So
That's awesome.
That's one of
That's a
those
great
things.
story.
It really it can happen. But anyway,
You got that check still? Did you
I wish I
you hang
would've
it on the
said-
wall or anything?
nah, I had it for a while, but it got lost somewhere.
Okay.
The stub for $50. But the radio and TV, it's funny because I was one of those guys who actually started to branch out and do radio and TV. And I was criticized back then as one of those guys. Oh, you're spreading yourself too thin. Oh, you have a column. Other columnists were like, I would never do a 5-day-a-week radio show. I would never take away from my. And then, of course, after I started doing it,
you started this in Detroit?
Yeah, I was the first.
Yeah, I remember that.
The first columnist, full-time columnist, to ever have a radio show. I was the first person ever hired at the all sports station in Detroit, WDFN.
Mm-hmm. I worked there, promotion assistant.
Okay, so you worked there. You know that. And the TV part was people just were like, this guy's really opinionated or whatever. And Fred McLeod, you know Fred.
Wow, yes.
Fred McLeod, who is the TV voice for the Cleveland Cavaliers now. Fred put me on, and he was all into me because I would say stuff. And Fred knows good television, and he was like, dude, I need you on. He put me on a show called Sports Final Edition.
I remember.
And
Man,
I was on.
Stop taking me back to my youth, by the way.
I mean, all that, right? You remember at Sunday night, 11:30 after the local news. I was on that show for 20 years in Detroit, Sports Final Edition. And Fred would never let me take a day off. No matter where I was on vacation, he would set up the studio for me to do a talk back from wherever I was. He said, just bring a blazer with you wherever you're going. It'd be the middle of summer on vacation. And I would go in and we'd tape a hit, and he was like, you have to be on. And he even once showed me, I always respected this because this was Fred's show. And I used to be on at the top of the show, and then they moved me back to the last 10 minutes. And I'm like, Fred, why am I on so late now? He goes, let me show you the ratings. He goes, when you're on in the first 10 minutes, he goes, as soon as you go off, the ratings hit a nosedive and drop. Because, they look at the He goes, when I put you on in the last 10 minutes, he goes, they hold the audience the whole show. And he goes, that's why I did it. Most guys would never admit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that I need you.
That I need you.
Yeah, you're helping the ratings.
Exactly. And he was always honest about it. And I always appreciated that for him being honest about my worth, what I brought to the table, and that people in Detroit wanted to hear from me.
I remember, and then obviously I started to see you on ESPN all the time. And talk about, if you can, like the challenging part of being no longer there and finding your like, what do I do next? Where do I want to go? What was that time like? Because we all know the high times. What is it like with the tough times?
It wasn't that tough for me, and I'm going to be honest.
Okay. From
this standpoint, a couple things worked out for me. Number one, sure, a platform like that. I was on for 8 years. I had no demerits, had never gotten written up or called into the principals or nothing for 8 years. So you can imagine, like, you do that. And then, the RG3 thing, and some people just didn't like it, or which is fine, and I get all that. The normal safeguards were there throughout the meeting, and the bosses all knew what I was going to say. There was no surprises. And still their reaction was what it was. And I just accepted it from the standpoint of things like this happen sometimes. It really does, and even though it didn't work out in my favor. But ESPN wasn't who I was, so I wasn't attached to it like that, where it's the end of the world. That day when they announced that they would not renew my contract, I got called by Channel 4, and I had never left. I was always there. And they called me in, and they said, we know who you are. We want you to be who you've always been. Come in on Monday. We got a new contract for you.
Love.
You see what I'm saying? So there.
I want to jump in real quick. So for those who are listening, they may not, exactly know or recall, because I was actually watching that day live. Rob and Stephen, they were having a conversation about RG3, and you started to say some things that, for me, it could have been, you could have said it differently, or maybe, I knew that people would take offense to it. But to me, it was nothing that was a fireable offense or not to renew a contract. It was okay, at worst, come on tomorrow and just say, hey, if I offended anybody, my bad.
Or have somebody on who wanted to push back and counter me, which would have been fine. The only thing that I would say is I don't think people really, first of all, even in my conversation, I said this is a conversation that would take place in the barbershop. So I put a context to it. I'm not saying Rhodes Scholars are having this conversation. And, I talked to people in D.C. before I even went on the air with it. They said this is a common theme every week in the barbershop, these conversations. And whether I have no ill will towards him or anything. That's just, you know what I mean? It was a conversation. Yeah. But I think when you look through history and what's going on and his downfall, part of it, a lot of it, I should say, some of it was exactly what we talked about. People not being able to, his teammates not being able to relate to him. Yeah. And that's really what I was talking about.
I got what you were saying then. It was just one of those like, okay, people are gonna make a thing about this, and but that's my whole point of bringing it up was how you bounce back, and
I didn't change, and that's the one thing that through it all I stayed the same, and I just said to myself, I don't want a job that bad that I'm going to be different. If I can't be who I am and get my opinion across, then I don't want to be on. It's just not that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right,
I would rather not be on. A lot of people want to do tap dance and be programmed and told what to say or whatever, and they want to follow and think that that's going to do anything for them. People don't respect that. Even the people you talk about don't respect it. Even the people who hire you, they might be cool because you don't cause any trouble, but secretly they don't respect you.
People want you to say something.
Otherwise, why are you on?
And so really, we're questioning when you get in the show, man. When you get in the Rob Parker show, you and either a co-host or again, you've been on the last few days. The
time will happen. I believe it's closer than it's ever been, and I think I have something to say. I think I connect. I don't know people who follow Undisputed, but we had back in March after the Cavaliers had their trades and all that. Yeah. I came on, and everybody was giddy over them. They were 5-2, and they had beaten OKC, and they had beaten Boston. And, look at what he got. And, LeBron's got a squad now. These guys are younger and energetic, and they can play defense. And they all accept their roles, so there's no issues or infighting and all this. And back then, I told Shannon Sharp right then and there, they didn't get better. These guys aren't going to get it done. And I was willing to say right then and there, 7 games in, that they will get swept in the NBA Finals. So I think when they showed that link of that back on March 1st, people are like, wow, if you really go back and look at it, it's on Twitter, you see some insight. And you say to yourself, this dude didn't play in the NBA, but he's been covering the league for a long time. And all the stuff I laid out for him, I knew it was going to be a sweep. People say, well, they almost won game 1. But they didn't win game 1. And the reason I believed it was last year, with Kyrie, who averaged 28 points against the Warriors, LeBron averaged a triple-double, and they were only able to win 1 game.
And they had this historic game.
Historic shooting right.
night from the three-point line.
They made, 24 threes or 29?
28, I think.
Yeah, it was some crazy number. And they won that. That was the only game that they could win. And I said to myself, if Kyrie and them could only win 1 game, you take him off, there's no way they would win a game. And that was the reason why I picked the sweep.
They did make it difficult on you, brother, because if in your case, how you put it, LeBron just shoots over Steph, that's a game. Game 3, they should have won as well. So
shoulda, woulda. They
shoulda, woulda, coulda. I agree with that, but they're definitely right there, which does lead to we're both sitting here. Literally, we can look out right now, the beautiful skyline of L.A. We had a great view. We're 28th floor right now, or 34th floor actually. Is sunny L.A. the new home of LeBron James and the James family?
A lot of people seem to think so. I don't. I don't see this unless he's coming with 2 other people or some other squad, and they're going to, change this. With what they have and these young guys, that's not where LeBron has a 3 or 4 year window, probably 3 really good years to try to win. I can't see him coming here and waiting for people to develop. Or he has the ball and he's going to pass it to Lonzo because Lonzo's open. Well, he's open for a reason. Lonzo Ball shot 45% from the free throw line. Would you pass him the ball?
No,
underneath the basket because he got an open look?
I would pass him the mic. Okay. I would tell him to spit me a song, give me a verse, but not a shot.
So unless he's bringing somebody else with him, that would be the only reason. Yeah. I would say Philly with those 2 young stars, and I think they would present a matchup problem for length with Embiid, with Simmons, with LeBron against the Warriors.
So here, okay. Everybody thinks he's coming to LA, and especially because his son is supposedly enrolled in the Sierra Canyon, which is right down the street from me. So please believe if he is, and if the family comes, I will be now at every home game for Sierra Canyon. But here's the interesting thing. Couple of things. I think LeBron is in an interesting place. People like you and even me say he can't pass Jordan at this point, right? But they were saying it even beforehand because the minute he lost in the finals once, he already has the blemish, right? Jordan was 6-0.
Yeah, but he still could have if he would have gone. What is he 9? If he was 8-1, I think that, you know what I mean.
Right.
It's not just that. It's now that he's lost.
LeBron
is he's not the GOAT. He's the fofote. That's what I call him.
The fofote.
Yes.
What does that mean?
FOAT.
I'm not about to like this.
Finals failure of all time.
All right, it was great talking to Rob Parker. Thank you, everybody. All right, get out. No, first of all, don't disrespect my man like that.
Here we go. Finals failure of all time. LeBron James has lost more NBA Finals than any other former MVP. Don't talk about Jerry West. Jerry West never won an MVP. LeBron James has lost more. Magic had lost 4. Kareem had lost 4. LeBron's lost 6. No other MVP has lost that often. That's why he can't.
Okay, now how far down the line does he fall? If he's not Jordan, I'm all right with that because if the fact that we can even have a conversation, am I the GOAT or am I surpass Jordan, then that's already a compliment to me. So then how far down the line? Because if the argument is he's not Jordan, so I'm asking you, if the argument is he's not Jordan, which okay, I've never had an issue with that. Then where is he?
I would say he's probably second.
Oh, then I wouldn't see you and we could go on about our meal and order something and have some drinks and watch the game because I wouldn't argue with you. If it's not Jordan, I'm fine. And if he's not,
because
there's
of
two people
all the other stuff that he's done, that stuff counts. But when you talk about the greatest, I think the one thing about millennials and LeBron fans is that you cannot discount winning. I don't care if it's your fault or whatever happened. Like you could bring that up for everybody. The reason that nobody thinks that Jim Kelly and Marv Levy are the greatest. Nobody says Marv Levy's the greatest football coach ever. He went to took a team to 4 straight Super Bowls, right? He didn't win.
So winning has to be a part of it. I agree. So you can't be Marv Levy, Jim Kelly, and all those guys.
Because it's not just getting there, but people try to make it.
You got to win something. So meaning if they went to 4 straight and they won 2, then that's impressive.
You might have an argument, right?
But you can't. So I agree that it is.
But you can't act like winning isn't a part of it.
I do agree. I do completely agree with that. But let me throw this at you. I blame Kobe Bryant in a complimentary way that he's the reason we discuss rings. When Larry Bird retired, he only had 3. And some people were saying, is he the best player I've ever seen? Many people were saying that at the time. Some people would say, it was Jerry West might have been. He had 1. We never really discussed rings. It was obviously you want them to win and be successful, but it was what I also saw and what they were able to accomplish, maybe even from just watching them in statistics. It wasn't simply just championships. Then Jordan comes along, retires in 93, has 3 rings. People are saying, I think that was the best player we've ever seen. He only had 3 rings.
Right.
We never discussed it. Kareem sitting with 5, Magic with 5, Bird at 3. Not even talking about Bill Russell with 11. Kobe Bryant is the first time we started.
Not a diss. What they have, 8 teams back then?
It was 18. Brothers couldn't get it. We only they were selecting brothers like 1, 2. All right, hold on. Wait. Let's not get carried away.
So it's a little different, right?
I agree. But Kobe was the first person that we said, after about 5 years in, we're like, can he be like Jordan? What in the world are we witnessing? Then he starts winning, wins 3. He's the first person when we started counting rings, like, okay, shoot, he's on Jordan's heels. Okay, he doesn't have 6. He doesn't have 6. He's lost twice. And we realized at a certain point, we all did realize and agree, he's not MJ. I think Kobe was the first person because he was nipping at the heels of Jordan where we went rings, not just what he did on the court, how dominant he was. Because we didn't care about it with anyone else. And then because LeBron comes up after that, and we're like, okay, at a certain point, we're like, he's better than Kobe. Could he be Jordan? And in the ring conversation, what do you think of that analysis that Kobe's the first time we really, truly cared about rings? Because Charles Barkley didn't win, but you didn't hold that against him in the sense of
not until
he might be top 2 power forwards all time.
Charles gets hurt now.
He didn't get hurt
back then. He was a great player.
Exactly.
I covered, like I said, the NBA back then. I was there. I mean, Charles and Rick Mahorn both ran into me and knocked me over underneath the basket once. That's how far back it goes.
Rick Mahorn is the biggest human being I've ever seen. Now, though. Now, because
he wasn't that
he
big
let himself go.
Right, he wasn't that big back then.
You're alive. If this would have been 2018, Rick Mahorn and Charles Barkley, I would have been singing at your funeral. How do I say goodbye to Rob Parker?
It was crazy, man. But,
that's too big. But what do you think about that? Just real quick.
Yeah,
on the whole
I mean, I could buy into that a little bit.
We just never I just remember growing up being like, yo, Isaiah Thomas was great. He had 2 rings, but we didn't well, he only had 2 and he had 3.
He only had 2 and he lost 2 or he lost 1. Right.
It was like you just knew, like, all right, so and so isn't on his level. And
and then when you have perfection, it's the same reason that when I look at Joe Montana, you can't. Tom Brady might be the most accomplished quarterback, but if you ask me, the GOAT, I'm still going with Joe Montana. 4-0, 11 touchdowns, no picks, and 3 MVPs, and 2 of the games he won where he threw a touchdown the last.
Yeah,
I
can't
mean,
argue that.
It's hard to look at that and not think that this guy's a great player.
I think every sport has like 3, in some sports maybe 5 guys that I will never argue with if you say it's that guy. You know, if somebody says it's Kareem, I think it's Mike. Or some, it could be, who knows? Maybe it's LeBron pulls off some miracle the next 3 or 4 years. It could be LeBron.
Probably
I'm
not.
mad. See, Ron.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm about to throw you out this window. We've been doing good, man. All right, I won't want to hold your time. I want to go to one more thing with you before you break. Before you leave. What do you think about? You mentioned baseball, and I want to get your thoughts on that. I know you love baseball. I've been to a baseball game with you.
I'm a Hall of Fame voter.
Hall of Fame. I was just getting there. You're a Hall of Fame voter, and this matters to you. This is something that matters to you. I've been, watching you in your career for years. How do we get more young black African Americans to participate in baseball? The numbers were fairly high in the 70s. As far as progression, like every year it's getting more and more, and you start to see like, man,
they're out there and actually playing at a higher clip. People don't believe that organized baseball, right? Leagues all over, they play the game.
Okay.
The problem is, and this is where I believe that Michael Jordan had an effect on people.
Positively or negatively?
Negatively. Okay. I want to be like Mike. Okay, and that's not. I get it, but people have been sold this dream, this idea that you can only play one sport. Some of the greatest players, right?
Right.
Michael Jordan played baseball. I could go through the list. One of the greatest athletes ever, right?
Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson was a baseball player. You just
I
listen to all these guys, okay? But
it,
what do they do now? They take these guys. Oh, no. I had a nephew who was an all-star baseball player, and he played basketball. And the coach, oh, no, you're going to play basketball all year, summer. That was not the way we did it. So we've taken out.
We've made these kids specialists where it's like, dude, just play everything.
Play everything. And you know what? Here's the sad part. It's a bill of goods, and people have been making money off the backs of these poor parents. They're going to get a scholarship. You know how few Division I scholarships there are?
Right.
And here's another one. NBA draft this past year, I think it was 16 players from the United States got a guaranteed contract and 14 from Europe and the rest of the world. So all these universities, top schools, 16 kids got a guaranteed contract, and only 30 get drafted, right? And with 60 kids, with the first and the second round, you don't get a guaranteed contract. So you're selling this, all these guys who are athletes, and now all these people aren't playing in other sports. They're playing just one.
I'm taking my one crack at it when you could be. You know, a guy I grew up around, I won't say with, he's in the neighboring city. I grew up, Drew Henson. Remember him?
Yeah.
Played Michigan quarterback, went to the Yankees for a little bit, and went in the NFL for a little bit. So Drew Henson, I remember hearing his name, because we're talking the 90s. So it wasn't like he was, we didn't have all the social media and all that.
Right.
But you're hearing this kid, he's hit Brighton. He went to Brighton. And you're like, man, Drew Henson, all right. He was a year ahead of me. Then I remember he goes to Michigan. I'm like, obviously, okay, man, he's dope. He's a great quarterback. But then he happens to come play pickup ball at the court at the little court we're playing at. He's dunking on everybody. Doing
exactly, right.
Then I remember hearing, he had 40 home runs this year. And I'm like, this dude can do everything. And it seems like we've gotten away from that. A guy who that's why he was able to go play in Major League Baseball, play in the NFL, and, do whatever he wanted. We're so focused on specialists. But I do hope.
I think people have done a disservice. I blame AAU. I really do, in taking some black athletes. We have baseball scholarships not being used at historically black colleges. You go down there are white kids on the team who have baseball scholarships, Hispanic kids, and there's nothing against them. But those scholarships are there right? And we should be able to utilize them. And this is where I'm saying we've done a disservice to tell kids that they should only play basketball or
maybe
only play football. Look at Aaron Judge, 6'8". He could be a football player. You should look at it with all that's going on with football and CTE and all this. Big guys should take a look at it. This guy's a power hitter. He's a big star in baseball, right?
Yeah.
He can catch out in the outfield. He can run. He can do everything.
Help make him a star, please.
He is a star.
No.
No, he's a star.
No, he's a star. You're right. Let me rephrase
He's a star.
this. Make him a superstar.
Right. No, he's going to
Nick
get there.
Young is a bigger star than Aaron Judge.
He's going to get there.
Did you hear what I just said to you?
Yeah, but that's because the circles you're talking about and the social media and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
But you can't. Okay, now I will not allow you to make this a millennial thing because this is a business thing, and this is baseball. They need to find a way to make Mike Trout could walk in a mall and people. If you're outside of LA, most people will be like, he's pretty buff.
Yeah, but the difference is you got to remember, and this is what's always been talked about, and I think it's a false narrative.
Okay.
Basketball, okay. There's only like 3 guys that matter. You're not wearing a hat. That's why football, and I'll give you, football's so popular, right?
Yeah.
Everybody who does a commercial for football has to wear an NFL jersey because nobody would know who they are.
Right.
Be honest.
No, it's real facts.
Okay, facts. And when you talk about baseball, you got a hat on. When you talk about basketball, I could go to plenty of people, we've seen it, and ask them to name other people other than, even when the shows that I'm on and stuff, you don't talk about the NBA. You talk about LeBron. You talk about Steph. You talk about Katie. You don't talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. You don't talk about the Brooklyn Nets. You don't talk about anybody. You don't talk about You talk about some of the other bad teams. The Siberia Kings in Sacramento.
But that's fine. I'll take you at what you're saying. But then I would say, you just said you're talking about the 3 teams, or maybe 3 or 4 teams, and then obviously the big star players. We're not even really talking about the star players in baseball. Like Mike Trout does not get discussed enough, and he's going to end up going down as maybe the greatest baseball player ever.
Only thing is, too, whenever you talk about that, the part that goes with it is winning. So yes, he's a great player, but people are just like last year when the Yankees made that run and Judge was a part of it, hitting big home runs, playoff games. That's where people get juiced up about a guy. The Angels got to make the playoffs.
Well, Jose Altuve is what I call him.
That's okay.
Because he's 5'2". I don't care what
people
they say.
People know who he is. But that little guy, because he won a World Series.
And he needs to have some more spots. He's literally like 5'5" or something.
He's a little guy, but he can ball.
But I'm saying that's great marketing. Do something with him at 5'5" and Judge at 6'8". Like, that's a great commercial.
And here's the other part, too, that I think when they talk about marketing, and it's nothing baseball can do, players wear spikes. Most people don't wear spikes. Basketball, everybody wears basketball sneakers.
Yeah, I noticed you got some Jordans on the table.
You know what I mean?
I noticed you just got to put in the
Can't
pack.
wait to crack them
All right, man. I'm going to let you go on. I lied. I'm sneaking in one more. NFL anthem. Quick, give me your 2-minute thing. What are your thoughts on this? Is it over? Is it going to start again? Is it bad that the league?
It should start again because of what the owners did by putting in this rule without conferring with the players' union. NFL Players Union, one of the weakest unions ever.
Yes.
I mean, they just don't get it. They have so much power. They're not organized. They don't know how to. They don't know how to do. This would never happen. The union. You think Major League Baseball would change any kind of CBA agreement without talking to the union? It would never happen. And all people need to understand was when they found out that baseball was going to lock them out. You know what they said? World Series, right? You don't want to. Oh, okay, we got you. We won't. We're done. We're not playing. We won't play the World Series. Who runs baseball? The Players Union. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Same thing. They could run the NFL, but they aren't organized. They don't have a war chest with money. In baseball, when they have a labor dispute in a while, but baseball owners know players don't go hungry if they go out. You go to the union and say, I got to pay my mortgage. Here's the money.
Yep.
You got what do you need? Here it is. You don't got to cross no line or say you're going back, and then they know they're going to get that money back, and you pay back the union. They got a war chest filled with money that they collect all the time whether there's a contract coming up or not.
It's called in case ish.
Yes.
In case it happens. And the NFL is totally opposite. Guys are going broke. Guys need help immediately. They can't make it a month. They're like, how long we going to strike, dog?
Exactly. One check or two checks, and they're done.
Yep. And so it'll be difficult for them. But I will say this. One thing I don't like, especially from, the black and maybe even black and brown communities who look at the player like as if like this upcoming season, if you don't kneel, you're not about the cause. I don't like that.
No, everybody has a right to do. Everybody's not going to be involved. But I admire the guys who are willing to stand up for something. I do admire those guys a lot, and they'll be on the right side of history. It's happened over and over again.
Agree.
Same thing. Muhammad Ali was a hated figure in this country.
Boy, we forget the hated part.
Am I right?
Forget
he was
Martin
hated.
Luther King was like enemy number one.
Exactly.
And now
that's what I'm saying. Now we got a national holiday for Martin Luther King. Muhammad Ali lit the torch for the Olympics. If you'd have told somebody in 1960-something,
never.
It would have never.
That's too patriotic.
Exactly.
That's a big deal, and he was not, according to them. So you're right. I think these players, man, they stood for something. I applaud them. I did it last week 3 times on CNN, and people were tweeting me crazy stuff, and I think what they've done is amazing. And now I always challenge people, including myself, that now we should not rely and singularly put the burden on them. It's on all of us to find those changes. When we talk about police reform, let's do it. When we talk about some legislative changes, we need to be about that.
But I just love that they felt compelled, and Kaepernick with what's going on. You can't just sit by and watch this stuff happen, no matter if you're in the league or whatever, because when we're out there, and and I know, I've been stopped many times. I've been followed in the mall. I've gone through the women clutching their purses as I walk by. It's not a great feeling. It's not the world we want to live in. And I when you see unarmed people being gunned down, you can't just sit back and act like everything's okay, because in your world, life is good.
That's real. Hey, man, I appreciate it. Go ahead, plug everything, man. What you got? You going on FS1 next week or anything?
So,
Give them your social media, all that.
Back on FS1. On Twitter, I'm at Rob Parker FS1. Don't forget, listen to our radio show, me and Chris Broussard. The Odd Couple every Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. on Fox Sports Radio, Sirius Channel 83. That's Eastern, 6 to 9. And you can read my column. Great website. It's called theshadowleague.com. It's about our culture, all sports and culture mixed. It's really, really some good stuff on there. Good read. I've been writing for them for over 5 years. I love the place. And the Shadow League is what they used to call the old Negro League. So it's named after the Negro League, which is awesome.
That's dope. All right, man, I appreciate it, man. We'll definitely do it again. I think this has been a ball. I think people are really going to enjoy this. And we'll circle back. I might have to crash you and Chris's show, man.
Yeah,
might do that. Rob, I'm telling you, Rob.
There you
Appreciate
go.
it. It's the Church League Chat.